On today's show, we're talking about the fourth level of the strategic advantage baseball process, game day execution. Hey guys, welcome back to Strategic Baseball Podcast. Today, Darrell and I want to do a deeper dive into level 4 of the strategic advantage baseball process, which is game day execution, which is everything we do is to get us to show up on game day against guys that are just as good, if not better than us. Geoff and Darrell here, and we help baseball players get to the next level with a strategic advantage so that they can play with supreme confidence against the best players at any level. In every episode, we promise to deliver value on the strategic side of player development to help your players compete with players just as good, if not better than them. Today, we're going to do a deeper dive into level 4 of the strategic advantage baseball process, game day execution. This is the level, what is all about. This is what it's all about right here. How you show up on game day. Remember, Darrell, the pitching strategist, and I'm a hitting strategist, and this is Strategic Baseball Podcast. If you are interested in joining our circle, head over to strategic-baseball.com, which can also be found in the show notes, and submit your email. That way you always get a reminder each time we release a new episode, weekly tip from us, and a PDF transcription and visual of the previous episode, and much more. If you're a player, coach, or parent who is interested in learning more about how the strategic advantage baseball process for your unique situation, you can email me at jeff@athletic-mission.com or Darrell at dc@startpitching.com, which could be found in the show notes, and we would love to arrange a time to sit down and speak with you and see how we can help. So Darrell, man, let's get into this. We got game day execution being the fourth and final level of the strategic advantage baseball process. Let's dive in. I'll let you go.
Yeah, Jeff, I think this is why they play, man. This is to me the most fun part of it. And for how you and I do it here at Athletic Mission, when we're really walking through the concept of the the 3 seasons and how we break that down and really look at the off season, the preseason, the end season. The truth is, man, how it shows up on game day is ultimately as I talk to these guys all the time, I call it the truth serum. It proves out, whether all the stuff that we've been working on is really, giving these kids a strategic advantage in a real game. And so the way we really break it down inside of game day execution is now that we have a competitive advantage, now we understand our mastered skill set and our mastered pitches as pitchers, and really broke down the opponent and created a strategy. Now we got to go execute it on game day. And again, as we talked about last episode, how do we transition from practice to pressure? And again, I think that if we're looking at it from a pure scouting point of view, that's kind of the intangible that scouts are really looking for, and nobody explains it very well, because it's so individualized. And so when we look at it from that perspective, the way that we execute the plan, the way that we make confident adjustments within the game itself, and then ultimately, how do we respond to the negativity of baseball, the things that we take on that wasn't a part of the plan, that wasn't quite how we envisioned that pitch working out or that play working out. And then how do we take that mindset and really are able to transition into the next pitch. And again, I think at any level, sports and competition, that's what it's about. And if you're really wanting to be a next level player, or you're really wanting to understand how we compete against the best players in the world, then the guys that I've had over the last 15 years, the college and pro guys especially, they grasp this piece of it, that really trusted their physical skill set, that really worked on mastering their pitches. Once they grasp this strategic advantage mindset, where now everything they do had to give them a strategic advantage, because the competition that they were preparing for was elite level competition. They're not going to get that weaker matchup in and out of the lineup. So every hitter they faced was going to be a pretty good player, or is going to be a really good high school player, or is going to be a really good college player. And so when you see that piece of it start to take shape, Geoff, I think that's the fun part of it, because ultimately players that come train with us, man, they don't come train just to throw harder or to be smarter. They come to have success on game day. And ultimately that's what parents want and college coaches are looking for. So it's cool when it all really comes together like that. But I think game day ultimately becomes an outcome of how they prepared. And I think we're starting to see that shift in baseball where, there's so much focus on the physical skills and the measurables, but you're starting to see players and parents and coaches now start to really take on this approach that there's more to game day than your physical skill set, your physical capability. Because a lot of times it's not a physical capability issue that I see with a lot of these older pitchers. Most of the time when we have confidence issues or we're struggling with command issues, it's really around the decision-making process about how they decide what pitch to throw. And is this the best pitch to throw in this situation to count to this specific hitter? And I know that sounds deep, but really, if we stop for a second and just break down baseball, man, that's what it comes down to. And that's the cool part about it, because once guys grasp that, now the off-season training, the velocity, the mechanics, all of the work that they've done to develop their physical skill set and that what we call the competitive advantage now starts to really transfer and translate into mastery. It transfers into their ability now to have a strategy because they have mastered pitches. And then ultimately the way we call the game or the way we go out and execute pitches determines how the game, is played. And honestly, the competitiveness and the confidence that we have on game day.
Yeah, and hopefully we are kind of painting a good picture on how we go from the competitive advantage to the unique hitting and pitching skill to the strategic advantage mindset and finally ready for games. Because right now it seems like a lot of guys are going from this competitive advantage straight to game day, and they just kind of expect the strategy to kind of show up. And you know what? Game day is why we do what we do. All the work that would put in throughout the year, throughout the different times of the year, different programs, get put to test, and the real test is, did we do the thing and are we doing the thing that's going to give these kids a strategic advantage on game days? Because, at this point, we now have our competitive advantage, our unique hitting and pitching skills, our unique skills mastered. And now we understand who we are and what's going to play. And now we can develop a strategy against whom the very pitcher that we're going to be facing that night. And we got to execute it in a game, in a high pressure situation. So, the question becomes, how do we develop our plan? How do we take real-time information? All the data and all that stuff is great, but how do we take real-time information and make a confident adjustment to our plan or to our approach based on the adjustment that the pitcher is making on us or the adjustment that he made on after our last performance against them? And how did we respond to baseball being baseball? Because, like you said earlier, Darrell, very rarely does what we envision happen. So, could hitting in baseball just hard in general? So how do we move on? How do we go to the next pitch? And how do we not let one pitch or one swing or one lack of swing take us out of the entire game because it lowered our batting average and we're done for the whole week, So they're really trying to make sure that guys buy into the developing of their skill set and mastering their unique skills and then using it to develop a strategy. And if they buy in and they're bought into how everything they do needs to have a strategic advantage, it needs to give them a strategic advantage, like you said, and guys that train and guys that are looking for something are looking for what gives them a strategic advantage on game day. No one's looking to be unbelievable at practice, and no one's looking to be good at practice and not be able to show up on game day, which is what coaches are looking for too. Coaches want a guy that can play in a real game. So you're seeing a lot of coaches on Twitter and stuff talking about needing more guys that understand how to compete, how to play a real game. So yeah, Darrell, it's like you said, it's a lot of fun to watch it all come together because guys now know that there's a lot more to the game than being able to hit a baseball 100 miles an hour off the tee. And when guys struggle, it's typically a strategy issue, and the strategy issue against that particular pitcher, which is really their preparation and their ability to read and study him at that very time and make the adjustment based on the adjustment that he's making on him.
Yeah, and I think that preparation piece, Geoff, is what gives coaches and catchers and pitchers the ability to collaborate. Without that, without understanding how we take the individual pitcher's skills and pitches, and again, a fastball is not a fastball. Every pitcher is different. Every pitch is different. And having the idea of how you mastered your pitches, and again, we're not talking about perfection. We're talking about purpose. We're talking about, can you throw a pitch by velocity and movement on purpose to a specific location? And once we start consistently mastering that ability, then it changes the ability to have a strategy. And I think as these guys that we've been working with here at Athletic Mission grasp that, and it's been cool the last few months as we've really dug deep into it and walked through that process, as we start walking them through those 4 levels, we're seeing them have game day results that are based on having a strategy. Developing that strategic advantage mindset. And I think that's the piece that once you grasp that is the differentiator I see for most elite athletes. And I think the opposite end of that, Geoff, is when we see kids that are so focused on measurables and hitting that number. And I think we'll talk about this in future shows. When we start talking about how we really assess pitchers and what we're seeing today, with the type of guys that come in and get assessed with us, we're seeing these 3 type of pitchers, and really ultimately it's 2. We see the hard throwing pitcher, and then the kind of the athletic guy that has command issues, and then we're seeing kind of the control guy, the strike thrower, the guy that really just kind of grinds through innings. And what's happening is these guys are owning the labels of that. And the truth is, in our process, in that strategic advantage baseball process, they're still stuck in level 1. They haven't really tried to move through the other 3 steps. And I think that's something that we're really trying to really educate our players about, that you're going to go through all 4 phases every year. If you're playing in real baseball games and you're training in the off season and preseason, and then you got an in-season program that you're playing in real games with, then you're going to experience this whether you're 14 or 15 or whether you're 22 or 23. You're going to experience having to develop a plan that walks you through these 4 phases every year. There's going to be strength and conditioning and different things that we're going to want to fine tune in the off season, that once the preseason starts, we're going to really start to fine tune and master that piece and how it affects my pitches as we start getting into bullpens and really getting ready for in season, and then translating that new velocity, the cleaner mechanics or the more effective pitches, and taking that into a strategy session now that gets me ready to prepare for a real game. That's kind of the genesis of this whole strategic advantage baseball process. And I think as guys grasp that, man, it's going to be pretty cool because it's going to change the way they see the game and the way we do game day preparation.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we're talking about game day and how important it is to show up. And you mentioned that there's the 3 type of pitchers, and really there are 2, and we're developing them into the 3rd. And then there's also three type of hitters, but really the two. And we're going to dive into that in the next couple shows, as well as the, because you mentioned it, the in-season, off-season, and preseason. So, yeah, man, I mean, when we talk to the kids and the parents, at the end of the day, they want game results. So, yeah, they want the numbers, but if the numbers don't play, who cares? They would rather be able to contribute and help make a difference in their team winning a baseball game. So, it's just a lot of fun to watch, because you can really see them grow as they kind of take what happens and see what they need to do, what adjustments should they have made. And now we're really talking, and we're really understanding what it's going to take to be ready to take our game to the next level and compete on game day.
Yeah, and I think it takes some of the psychological warfare out of their head too, man, where they have this emotional tug of war, whether they believe they're physically good enough versus how it shows up on game day. And hopefully that's what will kind of help, the listeners kind of plug in that piece of it and really understand how we develop that, because what we do here is not a lesson model. And what we do here is truly a program. And the way the business model here at Athletic Mission is when we take them on, it really is to help them create a process throughout the year to prepare, whether it's high school players or especially the college and pro guys. And so I think that kind of understanding that conceptually will help these younger players too not get so hung up on where they're currently at, especially the younger players that maybe aren't as physically mature as some of the other guys. But yet we can see that projectable potential. And honestly, once we start plugging in the strength and conditioning program and they start doing it more consistently, then guess what? We see that physical skill set come out that is able to be mastered. And then ultimately that we can create a strategy that shows up on game day, man.
Yeah, you mentioned program, which is different than lessons. And the program takes them through these 4 levels every single year. But, I think it's important to bring up again that the program starts with where guys are at. And a lot of guys, including myself whenever I played, just never really understood where we are at. So I think this is important. And it's important whenever you're kind of developing the plan and the process for these guys to develop, this is some of the things that we focused on. And I feel like, I mentioned this before, you and I are getting a lot better at helping guys figure out where they're at and what game day could potentially look like for them if they were to buy in and put in the work. So that's going to conclude this episode. I thought it was really good, Darrell.
Yep.
Next week or next episode, we're going to talk about the Athletic Mission pitching assessment process, and then we're going to talk about the Athletic Mission hitting assessment process. So looking forward to diving into those and sharing everybody what that looks like.